Welcome to ADVANTIS Academy. In this session, we would like to give you an initial overview of what ADVANTIS can do for you. For additional, more detailed information about the numerous features our software has to offer, we've included various tutorial sessions helping you become a pro in conducting risk assessments. All these tutorial sessions will be available to you after signing our licensing agreement. So, let's get started. But before starting the actual risk assessment, a few things need to be prepared. We refer to them as prerequisites. First of all, you want to build your risk assessment team. Within ADVANTIS, you can have 4 different types of users as members of your risk assessment team. These users, called company admin, engineer, project admin, and reviewer, have different access rights to the content. The next item on our prerequisite list is the scope definitions. You want to make sure all members of the risk assessment team have the same understanding of the scope of work they're about to start. For example, people. You need to define first who the people are interacting with the ride. In our example here, we distinguish between these 5. You can phrase your own description and, very important, your own definition of what is considered in scope and what is out of scope. The same scope definition concept can now be applied to use cases as well as the operating mode section. In these 2 sections, you can again define what you will consider in your risk assessment and what not. Now that we have set the stage on what is in scope and what not, we can start modeling our ride in the so-called base module. In the area section of this base module, ADVANTIS lets you model your ride into various subsystems. It is very easy to add a new area and then move under an existing area. Show you. Below, you see a tree arrangement of your different areas. All this preparation work serves us a great deal for this next step, the creation of tasks. The task describes how a person is interacting with the amusement ride. Here we have a list of tasks already defined in our sample project. Now let me show you how to create a new task. Creating a new task is done very easy in a few clicks. Simply select in which of the predefined use cases you want to create this task. Then select one of the predefined type of people you want to consider. Then you phrase the kind of action the person is doing, such as walking or entering or exit, etc. The last piece is the definition of the area. In this case, we're going to say exit ramp. As you can see from this example, while I select all these various items, ADVANTIS is automatically making a suggestion for the task title. Now, let us look at the core of the risk assessment. In ADVANTIS, we refer to this as a case. A case can be compared to a line item on an Excel-based risk assessment. So every identified hazardous event translates into a single case. So let us first look at an existing case. The first part of every case is called hazard identification and is about identifying a hazard, or in better terms, a hazardous event. There are two elements within hazard identification. First, the task. How does a person interact with the ride? And second, what potentially can go wrong, so-called the hazard. In this example, we have a person walking on the platform as the task, and as the hazard, we have a slippery surface, which consequently results in loss of walking stability and a fall to ground. So the result is then actually described in the hazardous event. Participant falling to ground on station platform. Now that we have described what is going on, we can estimate the initial risk of the hazardous event. There are two risk elements to make a selection on. First, the severity. Basically, how bad is the person injured experienced this event? Second, the probability of occurrence of the event. The 4 levels on severity and the 5 levels on probability are the default values given by ADVANTIS. The user can change the numbers of levels as well as their names. Also, the description can be edited by the user. What is important to add to every selection is the justification of the selection. This is being done in this comment box. So the resulting risk level will automatically be generated by ADVANTIS. The entire risk matrix is also fully configurable and can be edited by the user. Our default matrix has 3 risk levels in green, orange, and red. Because our initial risk has been evaluated to be intolerable, we need to do something in order to reduce this risk. This is called risk reduction measure. There are various types of measures. In this example, we are proposing a design measure. Every risk reduction measure has a requirement field where the team can phrase what needs to be done as part of the design, and a solution field where by the end of the project development the implemented solution is described or referenced. Eventually, there are requirements from a standard which can also be referenced in this field here. With every risk reduction measure comes a follow-up risk estimation and evaluation. In our example, the severity level remains the same because if the event would occur, the consequence will happen. But we anticipate that the probability will be reduced by the use of anti-slip material. As you can see, we are still not on a tolerable risk level, which means we need to do more. So, from this first reduction measure, we now move to the second one, which is also of type design. This risk reduction measure wants the station platform to remain completely dry during operation with guests. The solution is a reference to an already existing station design drawing. Due to this additional risk reduction measure, we arrive to a tolerable risk level. Because our last risk reduction measure asked the platform to be completely dry during guest operation, we decided to add another risk reduction measure of type operations. Here, we now require operating staff members to stop guest operation if the platform would be wet for whatever reason. This requirement then is addressed in a chapter of the standard operating procedure. Severity and probability do remain at the same level, and we are at the resulting tolerable risk level. Now we do have a first case with a tolerable residual risk. There are numerous small features where ADVANTIS wants to make your editing life easier. For example, you can change the order of your risk reduction measure. You can add notes. Or you can simply copy a risk reduction measure within a case or to another case. When it comes to risk reduction measures of type controls, we have a few more elements to look at. Here we have an example involving a safety-related control function. Whenever we claim a safety function for risk reduction, we then need to determine what the required performance level according to ISO 13849 is. As an alternative, the user can also determine the safety integrity level in accordance with IEC 62061. In our example, we use the ISO standard and choose our 3 parameters to get to our performance level, in this case, performance level E. The next topic to look at is the Safety Requirement Specification, SRS. These SRS are automatically generated for every operating mode associated to the use case in which the identified hazardous event takes place. In our example, we only have one SRS in normal mode operation. The essence of the SRS is the functional requirement combined with the integrity requirement, and in many instances with a performance requirement called system response time. There are several other parameters which can be added to an individual SRS. All of these SRS are listed in a separate list and can also be printed as a separate report. In this example, we currently only show or have only created one SRS so far. Speaking of report, let me show you how quick and very simple it is to create the actual risk assessment report. When you click Report, ADVANTIS lets you tailor your report with various options as listed here. or you can generate the just mentioned SRS report. Or maybe you need a report filtered to only show operational risk reduction measures. The actual report is printed in seconds and is automatically downloaded to your computer. All the information and a lot more is now secured in a locked and unchangeable PDF file ready for future use. In the last 15 minutes, we tried to give you a very quick overview what ADVANTIS can do for you today. There are many additional features we didn't touch on, but we're happy to show you in a first one-to-one introduction session. Get in touch with us at info@advantis.tech. Thank you for listening.